Being the second overall pick in the NFL draft comes with lofty expectations, and edge rusher David Bailey must be an impact player for the New York Jets.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I'm Damian Parson. That is Keith Sanchez. And on today's episode, we're talking rookie expectations, some big name guys that went in the top 10 of the 2026 NFL Draft. And how should the fan bases feel? What are the expectations for Spencer Fano, offensive tackle that went to the Cleveland Browns? Is he playing right tackle? Is he playing left tackle? Is he playing guard? We're going to talk about that. Arvell Reese, the linebacker slash edge that went to the New York Giants with the 5th overall pick. What expectations and what role should he even be playing for this defense? And then we're going to kick the show off, Keith, talking about the 2nd overall pick, David Bailey to the New York Jets. Keith, one of the top pass rushers in this class, and the Jets made him the number 1 pass rusher and edge rusher off the board. Keith, when you look at David Bailey going 2nd overall, what are the expectations for him in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard when you have to have the conversation of the New York Jets depth chart, right? And what their roster looks like to be able to set proper expectations, right? I think it's that combined with David Bailey's college film, right? Like just the evaluation of him. And DP is funny that he went to this place because the guy that he reminded me of, it's a guy that's on the New York Jets, and that's Will McDonald, the 4th. They both came out of the Big 12. Both were kind of speed rushers. Power wasn't necessarily their thing, but they got home winning with speed, right? They were good athletes, good change of direction when rushing the quarterback. So that was actually my NFL comp for him. Like I thought he reminded me of Will McDonald a lot. So I think expectations for me, DP, early on, I think that it'll be a role where run game, I think, I have to be developed because I believe Will McDonald, if I'm not mistaken, Will McDonald isn't a big bodied end either.
No.
Like I don't think he's a 265. I thought he was closer to 240 if I'm not remembering, right? So I think the New York Jets have to find a way to fill that role, and I think they have guys like George Versailles on their defense, right? They have to find a way to fill that role. But I think he's going to be, I want to see an elevated designated pass rusher, right? I think he's going to get every opportunity to play early on, but I think where he's going to make his, what's going to be his bread and butter early on is just getting after the quarterback. I think that's where you're going to see the highlight play. So I think the expectation should be to watch him develop in a run game, but he'll make his splash plays, providing pressure and sacks. And I think it'll happen much like with Will McDonald. I think it's going to happen in spurts. I think it's going to be a very matchup situation. I think the high-end athletic offensive tackles, we may see David Bailey struggle. I think when we start to get later in the season and injuries happen and, now we're on 3rd string offensive tackles that's not that good, I think we'll see David Bailey flourish in those situations.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. I think the run defense is definitely going to be something that we have to watch, especially heading into training camp and when the pads start popping in what will be, I think, late July, early August and everything, because we got the Hall of Fame game and all that type of stuff happening. That's the first preseason game to kick us off with real football, Keith. I think I want to see how they utilize and what their base defense is going to be. I think it's a 3-4. When you look at that defensive line that they have from a defensive tackle standpoint, David Onyemata, Harrison Phillips, when they traded Jermaine Johnson, they traded forward to Vondre Sweat. And then they also got Mozzie Smith back in the trade for Sauce Gardner, and they drafted Darrell Jackson Jr., the big DT from Florida State. So they beefed up that interior defensive line. So you're talking about potentially if they're going to run that odd front 3-4, you're probably seeing Tavondre Sweat at the nose. We probably get David Onyemata at one of the DN spots, and probably to start out Harrison Phillips, who's a big, powerful guy and a veteran, 30 years old. He's at the other DN spot, which with those guys on the defensive line, you're going to have to double team at least 2 of them because those are big, strong, physical dudes in the run game, to where if you have a David Bailey playing early on downs, Keith, I think that you can get away with him early in the game and not have to DPR him because of the fact that he's going to get matched up probably on tight ends, or Well, probably, yeah, he's probably gonna get matched up on tight ends more than likely. And then it's like, hey, you feel comfortable with it. Because late in the season, I found like early in the season, again, it goes back to Big 12 teams, but talk about it for years. They did it with Will McDonald, you know what I mean, in the Big 12, where you see him in the 4-point stance at 4-eye, and he's like 230 pounds. I'm like, Big 12, what are we doing? And I remember watching one of the early games, like early season, I was scouting David Bailey, and I saw the same thing. I was like, why is he in the 4-point stance shaded inside?
Yeah, they run a lot of 3-3-5, or it could be even 3-2-6, right? Like it's a lot of that. I guess to just stop the passing game.
Yeah, that's 100% what it is. Like they're Big 12, they're going to air it out in the Big 12, right? They don't run the ball a ton, but they're going to air it out. And I'm like, guys, this is not really conducive to stopping much. Putting the 240-pound, I think at the combine, Bailey came in at 250, and he looked every bit of it at the combine. So I'm like, all right, you definitely put some work in on your frame compared to what we saw from the season. I think if they're able to figure out that 3-man front, and I think they put them big boys up there, it's going to allow him to get the one-on-ones where he could set the edge a little bit better. He was better. I think you took at the Oregon game. He was good in the run game there, just attacking blocks, slipping blocks, being quick, but being decisive and playing with some strength. So definitely intrigued to see that, because if at the end of the day, in the AFC East, the Buffalo Bills, I think they led the league in rush attempts last year. You know what I mean? James Cook was one of the best and most productive runners last year. The New England Patriots have a two-headed monster with Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson. They don't just put it all on the shoulder of Drake May in New England. And we know for a fact that when you face the Dolphins now, not only do you have a new quarterback who's a running threat, you got Devon Achane back there, right? And they just went and drafted Caden Proctor. They beefed up their offensive line. So you know for a fact you're going to have to defend the run in this division. So, yeah, the run game is going to be big, Keith. I think the expectations, though, like, hey, we get some stops defensively, and we put you in those 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and we get to pin our ears back. As a second overall pick, you got to be an 8, 9, 10 sack guy more than likely. Like the fans are going to expect you to get to the quarterback.
Yep, I agree. I want to ask this though, because if the expectation is the 3-4 scheme, right? Most times you have that inserted fourth rusher. What's the balance between him dropping in coverage or being that fourth rusher? Also with Will McDonald on the other side, who's been, and that's what I say. Will McDonald has had a solid career thus far. I think he started off with 3 sacks as a rookie. Then I think it went to 10.5. I believe, and then he had 8 this past season. So it's been solid, right? He's been solid. But what's the percentage? How do you choose between the two as far as being that fourth rusher? If you're just going to rush 4 as a typical 4 rush situation, like do you want to see David Bailey drop in coverage? Do you think that could be somewhere where he excels, or do you think he should be the guy? Because they're going to have to kind of pick, right, running that 3-4 scheme.
Yeah, it'll probably be Will McDonald. I think he's the more fluid of the athletes in terms of those two. Both of them are first step quickness, elite first step, explosive downhill guys. But I feel like Will McDonald might give you enough functionality in terms of being that kind of hook curl of flats defender that lines up on the edge, drops off out of that 3-4, that odd front, and just let Will McDonald be that extra rusher, that fourth rusher. I'm not really, I don't think he's suited to be a guy that drops often. I think you could probably, you want to run some fire zone stuff and overload one side and him drop off, right, and catch a quarterback off guard. Sure, you can kind of sneak that and mix that in. But, like, if you're like, hey, we have to pick one of you guys, either Will McDonald or David Bailey to be the fourth rusher, or the other one be the dropper, Bailey's the fourth rusher. I'll drop you if I'm in that situation, just because of the simple fact I don't think Bailey has that. We talk about the ankle flexion. I don't really care about that as much. The hip fluidity to be able to drop, turn, pivot, you know what I mean, and handle that zone work and things of that nature. If he's just dropping to a spot and sitting there, fine. But if he's got to turn and they got a slant crossing his face, he got to flip and stay in fate. Yeah, no, I don't want him doing that type of stuff, Keith. I don't think that's the best usage of his skill set.
Yep. Oh, well, DP, let's go from one edge rusher to a hybrid guy, right? We don't
Yep.
know if this guy's going to play linebacker, if he's going to play edge rusher. And we're talking about Mr. Arvell Reese, the number 5 overall pick for the New York Giants. What are proper expectations for Arvell Reese? They drafted Abdul Carter, another hybrid guy that can play linebacker, can play edge. Everything didn't necessarily go as fluid as possible for the New York Giants with that situation. So let's discuss Arvell Reese. What should be the proper expectations? Should he play edge rusher full time? Should he play linebacker full time? Should he do a combination of both? Plus, you still have Kayvon Thibodeaux. You have Brian Burns there. There's a lot that's going on with the New York Giants. You add in Arvell Reese. So let's discuss what are proper expectations. Talk about that coming up next.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's an important reminder that whatever you're carrying right now, you don't have to go through it alone. Life can feel overwhelming sometimes, whether it's stress, uncertainty, anxiety, or just trying to manage everything on your plate. And it's easy to feel like you need to figure it out all by yourself. But therapy can be a place to get support, gain perspective, and talk things through with someone who's there to listen and help. BetterHelp connects people with licensed therapists and makes it easier to get matched with someone who fits your needs and goals. I think a lot of us have moments where stress or uncertainty can keep us up at night. And it helps to remember that asking for support is a strength. It's nowhere near a weakness. So you don't have to be on this journey alone. Find support and have someone in therapy with you. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's better, HELP.com/lockedon. Proper expectations for edge/linebacker hybrid Arvell Reese. But before we get into that, don't forget to check out the Everydayer Club for ad-free episodes and access to our group chat with me, Keith, and other listeners of the show. Tap the link in the show notes or go to lockedonnfldraft.supercast.com to join. Arvell Reese, Keith, a guy that, the Jets that was the number 2 overall pick for most of the draft cycle until maybe a week or two before the draft kicked off. And it was like rumblings came, hey, they might be going David Bailey because they want to get the proven pass rusher and not take a potential project and hybrid player. And that's what they did. They took David Bailey. Well, we kept, I think we believed the Giants with Keith were going to go linebacker. We thought it would be the actual linebacker, the guy that projects as the full-time linebacker in Sonny Styles, where Arvell Reese projected as a hybrid. But John Harbaugh said no, he was the highest ranked player on our board. Expectations, Keith. Like when you look at, you talked about it as you teased this segment, Kayvon Thibodeaux, Abdul Carter was drafted, 3rd overall last year, and you have Brian Burns. And I have some just to kind of point out some things. Last year, Abdul Carter lined up on the edge 651 times. Keith, 651 snaps per NFL Pro, pro.nfl.com. 651 snaps as an edge rusher. He only played linebacker or lined up as a linebacker 59 times. Right? So I don't really know the plan here because if you're not even if you do trade Kayvon, it still doesn't make the projection of Arvell Reese that much easier, because if his best potential trait is rushing the passer and you're playing him as a primary off-ball linebacker only, that kind of muddies things up. What are your expectations of the hybrid defender from Ohio State?
Yeah, so like I said with last segment, right? You have to combine the evaluation with the depth chart, right? And so and just so our listeners, right? Because I know last segment you said that the New York Jets may run a 3-4. I know that's information that you got from a source, right? From I'm assuming it could be Our Lads or ESPN or something like that, right? Yeah. So I'm pulling the same thing, right? I'm looking at ESPN. And this one is showing me a base defense of a 3-4, right? So that's where we're getting this from. It's not like we're making it up and then don't kill us if they don't come out week 1 and run a 3-4, right? So let's have a conversation. So I'm looking at this depth chart, DP. Roy Robertson Harris. So they're running a 3-4. So at the left end, they have Roy Robertson Harris. At the nose tackle, they have DJ Reader. At the right defensive end, Darius Alexander, right? So that should be with a backup of Shelby Harris, right? So that should be their 3 down linemen. So what this projects now is we talked about all those flexible players, right? All of those edge rushers. Brian Burns, right? I think you can like write him in stone that he's going to play one of the outside linebacker positions, right? And then as of now, DP, Kayvon Thibodeaux probably, getting a nod over Abdul Carter at the other outside linebacker position. So by running this 3-4, I think that Arvell Reese plays, right? But he's probably going to play inside linebacker. And they have Tremaine Edmonds on the depth chart also. I think those two are going to tandem. I think the more I look at this situation and if, them running a 3-4 defense, it appears to me, DP, that they're going to put Arvell Reese at linebacker and he's going to be just one of those insert guys from the linebacker position. And we had this at LSU, right? I don't know if you remember Devin White. Devin White made a lot of noise. I couldn't remember if it was his junior year or his sophomore year, but he inserted as our fourth edge rusher. Well, not a fourth edge rusher, but a fourth rusher a lot of the times, going up the A gap, the B gap, and going and get the quarterback. I can envision something like that, right? Or if the Giants start to evolve and take the next step, he'll be the fifth rusher, right? And I think that the situation is probably going to be developing Abdul Carter, and they'll probably end up getting rid of one of those guys, right? Whether it's probably Kayvon, and most likely Kayvon Thibodeaux, right? Because he's been the least sack productive, I think, out of him and Brian Burns. But I think Arvell Reese, their projection appears, in my opinion, to be full-time linebacker and then rush from that position, which I don't mind. I know the upside is potentially Micah Parsons, right? But in the Giants' uniqueness of the situation, I don't mind him causing havoc from the inside linebacker position, because when you tell him go, he can blow some stuff up. And I think that provides a very unique thing that the Giants can do. And we always talk about covering those dual threat quarterbacks. Man, when you got Arvell Reese smashing downhill, right? That's different, right? That's different. So I actually don't mind it. And I think the expectation is he play full-time linebacker, learns from Tremaine Edmonds. I think what they signed him in the offseason. And that tandem of Tremaine Edmonds and Arvell Reese flying sideline to sideline, that's pretty doggone good.
That's a big athletic linebacker group with speed and coverage ability and power. And Keith, when the pick first happened, I was just up in the air about it, because I'm just like, well, you just drafted Abdul Carter last year, right? I was like,
same exact kind of project, right? Like you know the upside. They can't play linebacker. You think they can play? I thought Abdul Carter could play linebacker at a high level.
Yeah, me too.
But they wanted to develop as an edge rusher. But you kind of still had Kayvon Thibodeaux and Brian Burns too. So I
felt like last year when you drafted Abdul, I felt like, man, you know what makes sense? Trading Kayvon now, like, what I mean? Get you some extra picks for day 2 for this draft. But they didn't do it, and the word is that they're not trading Kayvon, or they weren't going to trade him during the draft. I'm like, you're probably going to trade him during training camp. You know what I mean? I was like, some team is going to look at some GM's going to look at their roster, like, man, we are slim at the edge rush position.
Yeah, and we could use that.
What I mean? Yep. We could use that. We could use a Kayvon Thibodeaux and send a day 2 pick, a third, round, maybe 4th round pick, because they also will have to mitigate, pay him. Yeah, because I think he's entering the last year of his deal and everything like that. So you have to pay him and everything. But I'm with you, Keith, is that in that insert role, because again, even if you don't rush him off the edge, there's too much value of him attacking downhill in terms of Arvell Reese that, hey, I'm gonna blow up the A gap with him, Tremaine Edmonds, or it's a situation where, okay, if we rush Kayvon, if we still have Kayvon like early in the season, we rush Kayvon off the edge, maybe we take Tremaine off the field, put Abdul and Arvell in the A gaps and run some simulated pressure looks. Both of them are high-end athletes. Both of them can show and drop and different things like that. And then either way, both of them could trigger downhill and get and slice into the gaps and get right into the face of the quarterback with elite closing speed. So I think for them, like I said, at first I was vehemently against this pick. I was like, no. I was like, if you draft Sonny Styles, cool, because I didn't view Sonny Styles as a hybrid guy. I'm like, he's gonna play linebacker, he's gonna cover, he's gonna do everything you need him to do. This makes sense. When you draft a guy that I view probably more suited towards year 2 and 3, I want him rushing primarily off the edge. I don't like then you have Abdul Carter. You pay Brian Burns. Brian Burns has been extremely productive. So like, where are you getting the pass rush snaps? But to your point, A gap, B gap, attacking, simulated pressure, creating chaos and havoc. and then making the offensive line communicate. Like, they don't know which one of these guys, when they all walk up to the line of scrimmage. We saw that in the Super Bowl, where the Patriots offensive line was struggling with the 4-man rush. Then Mike McDonald got real nasty with it and said, you know what, I'm going to send all my guys up to the line of scrimmage and make you guess and make you choose who's triggering, who's going to drop. You're trying to set protections and slide protections and everything else. And when you think you've got it right, you've got it wrong. And we got a free runner on your quarterback, sack, QB hit, hurry, pressure, whatever. So I definitely, I think he's a guy that, like I said, I think Kayvon gets traded. I think he gets traded in training camp. I think it makes sense to go ahead and get him off the roster. And I mean, of course, Keith, could you try and go back to your Super Bowl days and say, let's get that NASCAR package going? Yeah, sure. 100%. Right.
Yeah,
move Kayvon down.
And that was kind of with different, I believe that was
body
a different
types.
Team. Yeah. I was about to say different. Yeah. Like, all of those guys was 6'5", 270, right?
270.
Justin Tuck and Strahan and OC Umenyiora, right? Like, those were big guys.
Kiwanuka and all those. Like, they were big guys.
270, some might have been 280, right?
280,
like, those were big guys. So
a little different than 260, 250. You know what
I mean? 100%. But no, I definitely, the more I look at it, I see a path for Arvell Reese. And I'm projecting, I hope for this year, and it's not the repetitive thing with Abdul Carter, that I hope that they put him at linebacker and keep him there and then allow him to unfold, right? Because we have to remember also with the Micah Parsons situation, everybody wants to make the Micah Parsons comp, but he played linebacker initially, right? Like, let him learn the defense, let him get comfortable. And then, if you want to kick him to the outside, exactly. That's the exact point I want to make. Let the game slow down for him. Let him get confident. And then you can always work pass rush hand maneuvers, right? Like, part of being a pass rusher is part of being a naturally born good athlete, right? Like, is he a good athlete? Can he cross face? Can he go from outside to inside rush lanes like that? And that's you just being a good athlete. Does he have speed to power? We've seen it. He has power. So I think that part can come. Let's not rush the development, because I would hate for this to be a repeat of the Abdul Carter season. Just what it seemed like some confusion, but obviously totally new coaching staff over there. DP, let's wrap up with the trenches again, man. Let's wrap up with Spencer Fano. He's stepping into the Cleveland Browns. This is a right tackle, but their biggest hole was at left tackle. Does he switch sides? What happens? What are the expectations? Does he start immediately? As a rookie, we'll have those discussions coming up next.
The NHL playoffs are here and in full swing, where every shift matters. Every moment is intense and the pressure is at its highest. And just like performance matters on the ice, it matters off the ice too. That's where Rougiet comes in. Rougiet offers treatment designed to help you get ready and stay ready when it matters most. Their top option, Rougiet Ready, combines clinically proven ingredients in a simple mint that dissolves under your tongue. It works fast, often in about 15 minutes, and can last up to 36 hours. And they also offer Go Long, designed to help with both performance and control. It's all about confidence and feeling like yourself again. Head to Rougiet.com/LockedOnNHL and get 15% off your ED treatment. That's RUGIT.com/LockedOnNHL for 15% off. Rougiet, performance medicine for men. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. Spencer Fano, the 9th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, right tackle out of Utah. And the Cleveland Browns, right, made a conscious effort. They really put a lot of resources this offseason, Keith, into the offensive line, trading for Titus Howard from the Houston Texans, right? They brought in Elton Jenkins and signed him as a 30-year-old interior offensive lineman from the Green Bay Packers. Going to signing Zion Johnson from the Los Angeles Chargers. They already had DeJuan Jones on the roster as a potential starter at the left tackle spot. But when you go to NFL.com/IQ and you look at what they're projecting for the Browns roster, Keith, they have Spencer Fano listed at left tackle. And it's an interesting thing because they also, Keith, drafted a pretty solid left tackle in Austin Barber out of Florida, a natural left tackle. Keith, what are the expectations in terms of what should fans expect when it comes down to, hey, our 9th overall pick was a tackle who might be flipping sides, and we don't know exactly where he's going to play. What should fans in Cleveland be expecting from Spencer Fano?
DP, the more I look at this, the Cleveland Browns, and I hope they don't make me wrong, but it's the Cleveland Browns. They have a shot to make you more wrong than right.
Right.
This could be one of the better offensive line groups in the NFL. When you look at this combination, right? You said Titus Howard, but the Tevin Jenkins, the Elton Jenkins, the Zion Johnson, Spencer Fano, but you talked about, and these are the key pieces, the depth pieces, right? The Juan Jones and Austin Barber, the rookie. I look at this, DP, and for Spencer Fano, I think if I'm the coaching staff, right, and expectations, I'm kind of letting the other guys, because Spencer has proven his flexibility, right? Like he showed that, like, listen, I'm willing to play whatever you want me to do, I can do it. I'm letting the other guys figure out what they are, right? Like I'm allowing, because I'm already moving. If Spencer Fano is playing left tackle, DP, I'm already moving him from right tackle, which he took majority of the snaps at, to left tackle. So I'm already moving.
Yep.
So if I have to move him from a tackle to a guard spot, right, then I'd rather go for that, because if you get an elevated Austin Barber, right, who's looking like, okay, this young man can start, then now you can start flirting with, okay, I have Titus Howard here. Do I put Spencer Fano at you know what I'm saying, at this position? Yeah. And now my right guard with Tevin Jenkins is up in the air. I think there's a lot of different movements that can happen with the Cleveland Browns. I think they took something, because I believe that they needed to replace, was it all 5 starters entering free agency? It was something
I think so. It was something around that line, like 4 or 5
of starters, or all 5. Yeah, it was something very close to that. I think they've done a solid job of adding versatile pieces to where I always say, what is the destination for these type of things, especially a unit like this, is putting your best 5 on the field, right? Whatever that combination is, putting that on the field. And I think Spencer Fano, I think the expectation is that he can play anywhere. I wouldn't be surprised if we start the season and he's playing right guard. I wouldn't be surprised if we start the season playing right tackle. And we know how the thing goes. You get injuries and stuff like that. Which guy does Cleveland Browns say, oh, okay, cool, y'all want him? Well, we're willing to trade a 3rd round pick for him, or a 4th round, 5th round pick for him, because we have depth pieces that we're willing to slide in. I think if Austin Barber comes in and plays at an elevated level, I think what me and you think that is totally possible for him to play at a starter level, then I think that reshuffles the deck. And I think for Spencer Fano, the 1st round pick, you can see him anywhere across the offensive line.
Yeah, 100%, Keith. And it's crazy because, man, you could tell that there's trauma there trying to praise the Cleveland Browns for doing good things, because they've shown that, hey, we thought they did some good things, and then we get to the season, it's like, what are you guys doing? And it's just like you scarred us too many times for us to just give you just the benefit of the doubt and give you just a praise without having any type of restrictions to the praise. But they again, like you said, they went into free agency like, man. And they did, honestly, Keith, they did one of the most difficult things you can do in football. To go into the offseason knowing that you're good, either 4 to 5, your whole starting 5, you need to replace on the offensive line, where there's not a surplus, Keith. Like, you know what I'm saying? We just watched the NFL say, yeah, we like this receiver class, but we need offensive linemen. We got like 9 or 10 drafted in round 1. And because the position was so scarce in the class that they took guys early, right? On night 1. So the NFL is always going to prioritize big guys up front that can block. And for the Browns, I know that there's some reports that, hey, Deshaun might be looking like the favorite. I'm like, I hear that, but once we get to training camp, the goal is simple. Let's find the best 5 for Shedeur Sanders. We're going to see what happens with Deshaun and Shedeur, and let that battle mature and manifest through training camp. But you had to improve this offensive line. It was not a strong suit for you last year, not really. And I mean, heck, you didn't bring back a lot of the guys you had last year. So I think with Spencer, like you say, playing all the positions, and then it puts that pressure on either DeJuan Jones, I think, and Tevin Jenkins. Because if either one of you don't play or practice well, then we look at, okay, well, Titus Howard was like an Iron Man and a glue guy for the Houston Texans. We know he could play right tackle and play right guard and left guard. So if Tevin Jenkins isn't doing well, we could see a situation where, hey, Austin Barber is looking pretty solid through camp. And we know we got, and Spencer Fano looks good. Maybe Spencer stays at right tackle. Austin Barber starts at left tackle, which would be, again, would it be tough? Sure. Starting two rookies at tackle opposite of each other? Sure. But when you have a Titus Howard kicks in that guard and you have Zion, Johnson, those are vets, right? Those are guys who've already played a lot of football that could be that inside bumper where those guys don't have to be stressed mentally so much. And I think with Spencer, he has the potential to be the best offensive lineman on this team. You know what I mean? Talent-wise. Like, he has that type of potential and then the versatility to move all over the place. And I think I'm pretty sure they want to go ahead. They want him to probably be the left tackle, Keith, because that's the blind side to either one of these quarterbacks. Both of them are right-handers. And if you really feel like internally, if Todd Monken and company feel like, hey, maybe Shedeur is the guy you want to see the most of in this season, we've seen, and I always go back to this when I talk about Shedeur. If you go back and watch him at Jackson State, you didn't see him drifting and throwing off his back foot and retreating a lot. It's when he got to Colorado and they had one of the worst offensive lines in college football pretty much for 2 years as he was a starter there. And he built up those bad habits, right? And trying to negate pressure and escape and everything else. I truly think that Spencer Fano playing left tackle and then the rest of these guys being able to play their positions, Elton Jenkins, if Tevin Jenkins could give you some solidarity at right guard spot, and you don't have to move anybody else, this offensive line could be rock solid. And I'm interested to see Shedeur and this passing offense, especially with Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston, Jerry Jeudy, Harold Fannin, who they drafted last year. They're going to run the ball with Quinshawn, and they have Dylan Sampson. I'm interested to see what this thing looks like with Shedeur being protected or whoever's at quarterback being able to feel comfortable behind the offensive line, but especially Shedeur. We haven't seen Shedeur be comfortable behind the O-line since he was at the HBCU level. What could that look like? Because now you're talking about having you might have your franchise quarterback if he's able to sit in the pocket, read the defense, get the ball out, and find his rhythm without having to backpedal, retreat, and try to create something with his legs because pressure is leaking through.
Yep. DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available, guys. Go like, subscribe, comment on YouTube. If you listen on audio, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Give us a 5-star review. It's free. It's free. It costs you nothing to support the podcast and your boys, DP and Keith. But guys, on tomorrow's show, we're finishing up our recap of the 2026 NFL Draft. We're talking about our post-NFL Draft perfect prospect to NFL team pairings on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow. Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.